Hey guys, YouTuber100 here, and happy 4th of July to all of you celebrating 4th of July here in the US. Yeah, as and here I am as I continue Nick Jaladian with another Nickelodeon movie review, you know, with review of Good Burger. Yeah, so before I really talk about anything about this movie, I guess it does make sense to actually kind of talk about kind of just like what was actually like going on behind this movie, because yeah, the movie has of course like stars Kenan Thompson and Kel Mitchell, and these two were like really basically on top of Nickelodeon during this time. I mean, this show was based off of the sketch from All That, and of course Kenan and Kel were on All That, and of course they also had Kenan and Kel, the show. Yeah, so yeah, these two were just basically on top of Nickelodeon at the time. I mean, just about everybody was really like crazy. Every Nickelodeon fan was just crazy for Kenan and Kel at the time. So yeah, it did make sense to give them their own movie. And so yeah, they had Good Burger right here. And yeah, like I said, this movie it was based on the sketch from All That. So yeah, I guess you can kind of make the debate whether or not this movie was also based on a TV show, but only partly because yeah, as I said, Good Burger was just a sketch performed on All That. Good Burger wasn't like an actual show. Yeah, so I guess you can make the debate on whether or not this is actually based on one of Nickelodeon's shows, but yeah, just partly. And yeah, I really do like this movie. I mean, yeah, I watched this movie so much ever since I was a little kid. I mean, just really been obsessed with it. Like I've told you before, I was like obsessed with this, the first Power Rangers movie, and Toy Story growing up. I mean, yeah, those were like the three movies that me and my brother were just really obsessed with when we were little kids. And yeah, even today we still do really love the movies. And yes, Good Burger, it is a really good movie. I watched Nostalgia Critic's review for this movie, and he's kind of made fun of it and basically called it crap, which it's not. I mean, I remember I placed this on my list of the 10 movies that critics don't like but audiences do, and yeah, audiences, they do like this, seem to like this film for the most part. I mean, yeah, on the tomato meter on Rotten Tomatoes, it only has 32%, and the audience score for the movie is 63, so yeah, a pretty big difference in terms of audiences and critics reaction to the movie. And yeah, I really do like it. I would definitely say that this is Nickelodeon's best live action movie that they've ever done. And yeah, probably in the top 5 best Nickelodeon movies of all time. And I would definitely say that this is my favorite Nickelodeon movie of all time. Not saying it's the best, but it is my favorite. I mean, I've just loved it as a kid, and I still do like it now. I mean, it's just a really good movie. I would give it 3.25 stars out of 4. Yeah. And plus, yes, as I'm talking about Good Burger, yeah, have any of you like seen the Jimmy Fallon's Good Burger sketch that was from last year? I mean, yeah, just looking at this, I mean, it's just really nostalgic. I mean, yeah, I've seen like a lot of people say that the Jimmy Fallon sketch of Good Burger actually brought them back to like the movie and like sketches from All That. Yeah, I mean, just the Jimmy Fallon sketch was just like really nostalgic and really just brought people back. Yeah, I'll put the Jimmy Fallon sketch of the show in the description for all of you that want to see it if you haven't seen it before. I mean, it's just so great to see. Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, Good Burger, it is a really good movie, as I said. Yeah, you have like some actors from All That returning to reprise their roles in this movie. Of course, you have like Kel Mitchell reprising his role as Ed, who was basically the star of the sketch. Actually, I mean, yeah, Ed is just the idiot cashier for the restaurant. Yeah, and Keenan in this movie, he doesn't really reprise a role on the show. His most well-known role in the Good Burger sketches were probably as Lester Oaks, the construction worker, and yeah, Lester Oaks is not in this movie. Instead, Keenan plays a totally different character, Dexter Reed, who is working at Good Burger now. And yeah, he has like some other cast members from all that, like reprising their roles in this movie that they were on Good Burger. Like you have Josh Server as Fizz, Dan Schneider as Mr. Bailey, and you also have like Lori Beth Denberg making a cameo as Connie Muldoon. And you also have like a few big stars in this movie. Yeah, you have of course the late Abe Vigoda, rest in peace. Have Sinbad. There's Linda Cardellini. Shaquille O'Neal makes an appearance. Yeah, this is probably the movie that Shaquille O'Neal wants to remember most from his movie career. I mean, when he's got crap like Kazam and Steel and all that. Yeah, I don't know. There's also an appearance by Carmen Electra in the movie. Yeah, and yeah, also like a small appearance from George Clinton. So yeah, it has like some well-known stars in the movie. Yeah, like I said, just a really really good movie. It has a lot of like hilarious stuff in the movie. Yeah, and yeah, the premise of this movie is just like Good Burger in a like just in a competition with the new restaurant Mondo Burger. Yeah, the premise of this movie is basically just like a McDonald's versus Burger King story with two competing burger chains. Yeah, that's the case here with Good Burger and Mondo Burger. Yeah, just yeah, enemy rival burger restaurants just right across the street from each other. Yeah, that's just like basically the premise of this movie. Just basically like McDonald's versus Burger King. And yeah, I just really do love this movie. I mean, it's just so entertaining and it's funny. I mean, yeah, it's just basically what you would expect from like Kenan and Kel at the time. As yeah, Kenan and Kel were just a hilarious duo on Nickelodeon during this time. I mean, with all that and Kenan and Kel and everything, yeah. And it was great to see Kenan and Kel like get to make returns to Nickelodeon separately. Like you had Kenan returning for the I Party with Victorious crossover movie with iCarly and Victorious. Also had Kel making an appearance on Sam and Cat. I mean, yeah, it was great to see Kenan and Kel make returns to Nickelodeon. And yeah, yeah, the Kenan and Kel were just awesome. I mean, yeah, Drake and Josh really don't compare to Kenan and Kel. I definitely say that. Yeah, I mean, it's just yeah, Kenan and Kel are just like the best duo in Nickelodeon history. I mean, they're just really great. And yeah, yeah, they're a great duo. Okay, but yeah, let me just get right into it. All right, so the movie opens up with just like a burger being made as the credits start. Then it's just like showing Ed taking an order, and of course you have Ed's famous line, "Welcome to Good Burger, home of the Good Burger. Can I take your order?" And as he's trying to get a good burger for a customer, it then shows like the burger like coming to life, and it's alive inside the bag, and it just shows like a bunch of burgers coming to life, and they're raising Ed up in the air like him flying, and then Ed just falls down a long way, and then it turns out Ed was just dreaming, and then he wakes up, and then he takes a shower with like his clothes on. And yeah, basically for this entire movie, Ed is wearing his Good Burger uniform, and it's hilarious. Yeah. And then it shows at Good Burger, like, there's a long line, and none of the other employees are taking the orders, and there's a construction worker played by Robert Wool, and he's getting, like, really impatient. And as Ed is waiting to work, he like bumps into some girls playing jump rope, and then he bumps into a mother and accidentally takes her baby. Then he like collides with some basketball players, and the basketball gets mixed up with the baby. Yeah. And Ed eventually or finally arrives at Good Burger, and then like just the construction worker is just like he's just had enough when Ed is just like being so stupid, saying. And yeah, the construction worker then just said he couldn't wait for Mondo Burger to open. And then it just shows Mondo Burger like is a finished building across the street, and it's been built for 10 months. Well, yeah, people have been building it for 10 months anyway. Yep. And the other employees at Good Burger are concerned about Mondo Burger possibly putting them out of business, but then Mr. Bailey, the manager, assures them that Good Burger has been around for so long and the customers love them and nobody will ever put Good Burger out of business. Then it cuts to high school where we see Dexter Reed, who's played by Keenan, taking his final exam for a class, and his teacher, Mr. Weed, who's played by Sinbad, is just kind of lecturing them. And as Dexter is getting ready to leave, Mr. Wheat was trying to talk to him about challenges and he's worried about him, and Dexter had also told Mr. Wheat that he's worried about him too because he's just basically living in the 70s because he has an afro and he kind of dresses in 70s type of clothes. Yeah. And then it's shown that Dexter is actually driving his mom's car when he's not supposed to. And when Dexter and his friend Jake are driving in his mom's car, then Ed is sent off by Mr. Bailey to make a delivery for the time being since their delivery boy was fired. And then Ed is just bleeding in the street, and it causes Dexter to just swerve in circles, and then Dexter just ends up crashing into Mr. Wheat's car, and they make a pretty good reference for Kenan and Kel, where Dexter actually screams, "Why?" like Kenan did on Kenan and Kel. And then Dexter's friend Jake then just ended up bolting away. And Dexter tried to tell Mr. Wheat what happened. Mr. Wheat didn't want to hear it. And then he found out that Dexter actually didn't have a driver's license, and he was going to call the police, but Dexter just pleaded for him not to, and pleaded to just let Dexter fix the car, and Mr. Wheat agreed. And then Dexter got the estimate for the cost it would be to fix the car, and the estimate was $1,900, and Dexter, of course, didn't have the money, so he just decided to get a summer job. And so, yeah, Dexter then, went over to Mondo Burger, but it just showed that he was a very sloppy employee, because as all the future employees were preparing some burgers, Dexter just made a complete mess in his area. Yeah. And the owner of Mondo Burger, Kurt, just wasn't happy about it. And then Kurt later on just ended up firing Dexter because Dexter was just being so silly and was actually making fun of Kurt. Then, of course, Dexter just wasn't happy about it because of the position he was in. And as he was just binging out on shakes at Good Burger, Ed came across Dexter, and Dexter knew that he had seen Ed someplace before, but he couldn't remember where. Then Dexter just told Ed about the position he was in. Then Ed just told Dexter that he could work at Good Burger, and then Ed and Dexter then talked to Mr. Bailey about it, and Mr. Bailey then accepted Dexter in and put him on deliveries. And as Ed was introducing Dexter to some of the other employees, included Fizz and Otis, and also Dee Dee, who's a vegetarian. And I don't understand, if you're a vegetarian, why would you actually work at a fast food joint? It just doesn't make sense. And then eventually, Dexter also met another co-worker, Monique, who he also ended up falling for. And yeah, Nostalgia Critic actually made up kind of a good point in his review that Ed and Monique kind of do look alike, and yeah, they do sort of look alike. Originally I used to think that the Kel and the actress who played Monique were maybe related, but it's shown that they're not. So, yeah, kind of interesting there. And then Ed just showed Dexter what he would be making deliveries in. He showed him the Burger Mobile, and Ed took Dexter for a ride, and yeah, Ed was just driving out of control, and then they just ended up running through Mr. Wheat's mailbox. And then later that night, then there was the grand opening of Mondo Burger, which was completely ridiculous. I mean, and like it was the red carpet of a movie or something. I mean, what kind of opening for a fast food restaurant is like this? I mean, it's just so ridiculous. But then yeah, eventually yeah, Mondo Burger then opened up, and then everybody was just going over to Mondo Burger, and yeah, Mondo Burger was just making a ton of money, and Good Burger wasn't getting anything. And then eventually, Mr. Bailey was able to get a Mondo Burger, and all the employees saw that the burger was huge, and the burger was so big that it even like bent another worker's spatula. Yeah, and like eventually, like Dexter then eventually figured out who where he recognized Ed from, and he realized that Ed was the one that actually caused Dexter's accident and why Dexter is actually in the position. Yeah, Dexter, of course, didn't like Ed right there. Yeah. Then the next day, after Mr. Weed got his car back, he then showed after the receipt, and the whole cost for the repairs were $2,500 instead of the 1,900 estimate. And then yeah, Ed then just sat down with Dexter to lunch, and of course Dexter didn't want Ed to be with him. But then yeah, Dexter just Ed was then just being silly, and he put like the grapes in his nose and was just like shouting "bloobity, bloobity, bloobity," and eventually just caused Dexter to laugh and just give up on being mad at Ed. And then it showed that Ed carried around his own sauce that he made. And then look, Dexter and the other employees then like tasted the sauce, and yeah, it was really really good. And then Dexter then came up with the idea for them to put Ed's sauce on all the good burgers, and then that would rise them back up again, and they could surpass Mondo Burger. And so that's what they did. They started to put Ed's sauce on all the good burgers, and yeah, yeah, they had more customers than ever, and Mr. Paley told Ed that he would give Ed 10 cents for every good burger that they sell. And as Ed was making some more of his sauce, us Ed told Dexter that since it was Dexter's idea to put the sauce on the good burgers, that Dexter should get some of the money that Ed receives. Then, yeah, I know Dexter then just conned Ed into signing a contract that basically said that had Dexter would get 80% of all of the money that Ed receives from the sauce. Yeah. And it was funny. Yeah, when Dee Dee asked Ed what was in the sauce, like, as Ed was like explaining what was starting to explain what was in the sauce, Dexter just tackled Ed down and just told him not to tell anybody, and just keep his sauce recipe a secret. And then Kurt then saw all like how good Good Burger was doing now, and he wanted to find out what was in the sauce. And later that night, then Ed and Dexter just sat up on the roof looking at the stars, and Dexter was just like telling Ed some of the problems that he has, and he was starting to tell Ed about the last time he saw his dad, and his dad actually brought him a yo-yo that lit up and also like, made a whistling noise, and that it eventually stopped doing that, and his mom just threw it away. It was funny. Dexter said that he didn't remember what his dad looks like. And Ed just said he doesn't remember what his dad looks like either, but at least he gets to see him every day. And then the next day, then Dexter had a delivery to make, and he and Ed went to make the delivery, and it was actually to Shaquille O'Neal. Yeah. And then like it was ended up being just broadcasted on TV, and then yeah, Kurt and his two right-handed guys just weren't happy about how good Burger and how good it was doing. So they tried to figure out what to do to get better than Good Burger again. And so Kurt had his employees in the kitchen make the burgers bigger. but they still needed to come up with what to do about Ed's sauce. And so, one day, Kurt was giving Ed a ride to work, and he was trying to con Ed into coming to work for Mondo Burger. And of course, but once Ed arrived back at Good Burger, Dexter just told Ed not to tell Kurt the sauce recipe. And then it showed that Ed bought Dexter another yo-yo that was exactly like the one he had when he was younger. And so then Kurt decided to come up with another plan. He decided to bring in one of his henchwomen and Roxanne to try to seduce Ed to get the sauce out of him. And so then Roxanne, who was played by Carmen Electra, then paid a visit to Good Burger, and then she asked Ed out on a date. And Ed then told Dexter that he should just ask Monique out and they could double date. And then Monique agreed after Ed volunteered for Dexter or to ask her out, or he basically just asked Monique for him, yeah. And then Ed, Roxanne, Dexter, and Monique all went out to a miniature golf course. And Roxanne was trying to ask Ed what was in his sauce again, but Dexter stopped Ed from telling her after Dexter was trying to kick Ed, but he ended up kicking Roxanne instead. And as they started to putt in miniature golf, when it came to Ed's turn, he he swung his golf club all the way back, hitting Roxanne in the face, and then he hit his golf ball, and it went everywhere, and then he just went back and hit Roxanne right in the forehead and caused her to pass out. And then she just had a real big red bruise on her head from the impact of the head. And eventually, just Roxanne tried to. She just tried to ask Ed what it was again, and she tried seducing him again, trying to kiss him, but then Ed just threw Roxanne over his shoulder, and she hit the ground. Then Roxanne just ended up quitting. And for Kurt. Then, there was the small cameo from Colleen Muldoon, who was a character on the sketch when it was on All That. And it was, of course, Lori Beth Denberg reprising the role. She was just asking for a huge order for a family reunion she was having. And then Monique eventually found out about the contract that Dexter had Ed sign, and then, she just felt that she figured out who Dexter really is, and that he's just scamming Ed to get some more cash. Then, as Dexter went out to try to talk to Ed about it, there was then a dog who was just constantly barking, and Ed thought that the dog was trying to tell them that there were some clowns with their car broken down stuck someplace. But then Dexter just told Ed that there aren't any clowns and the dog is just hungry. And so Ed tried to feed the dog a Mondo burger, but the dog didn't even touch it. And then they gave him a Good Burger, and the dog went after it just fine. And after that, Ed and Dexter then figured out that something had to be wrong with Mondo Burger, so they went to go find out what it was. And then it showed there actually were clowns with their car broken down someplace. And Ed and Dexter then snuck into Mondo Burger dressed as women. And then they saw that Mondo Burger is actually using an illegal chemical called triamphethol to actually make their burgers as big as they are, and showing that just a couple of drops of the triamphethol makes the burgers basically like a Juicy Lucy size. And then they eventually got caught by Kurt, and then Kurt then had Ed and Dexter committed to an asylum, which I really don't understand how they could really do that without really having any proof that Ed and Dexter are mentally insane or something. They got locked up in an asylum. And while locked up in the asylum, Ed also met a girl named Heather in there, who's in there for or like breaking in the zoo and freeing kangaroos. Yeah, he showed like Ed was making some friends like with Heather, and then he also met this like really violent inmate. Hey, that was like locked up in a straitjacket, but Ed eventually ended up releasing him, and then the guy just went to do who knows what. I mean, it didn't actually show what he was doing, but you just like heard a bunch of things like breaking. Yeah. Then Kurt and his guys then broke into Good Burger, and then they dumped some shark poison into the sauce, and then they got caught by Otis, but then Otis was ended up committed into the asylum too. And then after Otis told Ed and Dexter about what Kurt did, they finally decided that they had to escape. And then we got the best part of the movie. Uh, the nurse in the asylum went to go get the inmates' medications. And then she turned on some music, and yeah, the music was just complete crap. And then Ed changed the station, and then he turned on the song on Not Just Knee Deep by Funkadelic. Yeah, and then Ed just got all of the inmates to just dance to the song. This was freaking hilarious. I remember when like I was a little kid, me and my brother would like always like dance along to this, and sometimes even our sisters too. And this was just freaking hilarious. We would just always like dance along with Ed and the inmates. But yeah, we just kept doing this over and over. We just kept rewinding this part and just dancing over and over again. I mean, this was just freaking hilarious. And yeah, and then Dexter then got the two guards to also dance, and then like Dexter like elbowed one in the gut, and then he kneed the other in the nuts, and then just knocked them both out with an elbow to the face. And then yeah, they were able to get the keys from the guards, and then they were able to start their escape. And with the help of Ed's violent friend, they then were able to escape through bulletproof windows. Oh yeah. And then, yeah, they ended up hijacking an ice cream truck to race back to Good Burger, but they also ended up being chased by some doctors from the asylum. And yeah, but yeah, they then threw some treats from the ice cream truck to slow the doctors down, and then they eventually came across Mr. Wheat's house again as he was setting up a new mailbox. And then the doctors ended up just like crashing into the mailbox after like flying through some dirt over some dirt hill and landing on the mailbox. Yeah. And then there were two old ladies ordering at Good Burger. And then yeah, Ed, Otis, and Dexter arrived back at Good Burger, and Ed stopped one of the old ladies from eating a Good Burger just in time. And then yeah, they just told Mr. Bailey what happened with Mondo Burger poisoning their sauce, and they just had Mr. Bailey keep anybody from eating the sauce. And then Ed and Dexter went to go get a can of Triumphantol to prove it. Ooh, what Mondo Burger's doing. Yeah. And then they were able to eke into Mondo Burger by climbing onto the roof, and just yeah, Mondo Burger at the top. Yeah, on top of their ceiling, they had like a giant burger, a giant fry, and a giant shake. With the straw for the shake was basically just chimney for Mondo Burger. Yeah, and they ended up just going right into the straw, and yeah, they ended up just falling right into Mondo Burger. Then Dexter tried to lure the employees away from the kitchen so Ed could get a can of Triumphantol and take it back to Good Burger. And Dexter shot down the employees of Mondo Burger with just some guns of ketchup and mustard. Yeah. And then, yeah, Dexter lured the employees up to the roof. And then, as Ed was trying to get a can of Triumphantol, he accidentally knocked down the cans, and one actually fell into the meat supply for the burgers. And then Ed then just ended up just pouring 2 full cans of the Triumphantol directly into the meat supply. And Ed and Dexter eventually got cornered by Kurt and the other Mondo Burger employees on the roof. But then it showed that because of all the triamphethol Ed put in the meat, the burgers were just growing like so ridiculously huge, and then it was just causing all the burgers to explode because of the overdose in triamphethol. And it was also causing the Mondo Burger building to start rumbling. And Kurt and the other Mondo Burger employees raced back to the kitchen to try to see what was going on, and Ed and Dexter then were able to escape. And it showed that the burger on top of the ceiling was starting to loosen up. And Kurt and his two right-hand guys then saw what was going on, and a huge burger just exploded on them. And then all the customers of Mondo Burger and the employees then just ended up clearing out the building. And Mr. Weed then ended up arriving, and it turned out that burger on top of the ceiling just ended up falling right down on his car. Yep. And then after Ed and Dexter then just told the police what Kurt was doing, that he was using illegal chemicals to make his burgers big, Kurt then ended up being arrested. And then, Dexter ended up giving Mr. Wheat just about half of the money that he owed him for his cart, and told Mr. Wheat that will probably have the other half by the end of the summer. And as Ed and Dexter were leaving Mondo Burger, Ed was telling Dexter why he actually did what he did with the triamphethol instead of what they planned. And Ed just told Dexter that even if he did take the can to the authorities, that Kurt may actually use an attorney to manipulate the system, and it would probably take months to even convict Kurt of anything. So Ed just decided to take matters into his own hands and do what he did. Then Dexter just ripped up the contract he had Ed sign and just told Ed that all the money that Ed gets for his sauce is all his. During that there was also a funny joke where Ed was just asking if it was because he was black. And when Ed and Dexter then arrived back at Good Burger, then Ed was just declared a hero and saved Good Burger. And all the employees and customers was just chanting for Ed. And the movie just ended with Ed saying once again, "Welcome to Good Burger, home of the Good Burger. Can I take your order?" And then that's how the movie ended. So, like I said, 3.25 stars out of 4. I mean, I really do love this movie. This is definitely like my favorite Nickelodeon movie. I mean, I just really have loved this movie ever since it came out. It's just a really, really good movie. Alright, so that does it for my review of Good Burger. Hope you guys enjoyed this review, and like I said, the Jimmy Fallon Good Burger sketch will be down there if you want to check it out. And once again, happy 4th of July to all of you out there. Alright, so that does it for my review of Good Burger. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.